What, you don't know me?
Hell no. Yeah.
Hey, I think that's a little...
I'm not even gonna lie. But my head was up. I was throwing up and shit. Hey, is he gonna get banned for it?
The controversy surrounding Raja Jackson has been one of the most shocking stories to shake the boxing world in recent weeks. What started as a clip circulating online has turned into a heated debate about whether Raja crossed a line so severe that it could put him in a position of facing suspension, losing his platform, or even worse, jail time. From fans to fighters, from analysts to his own father, the voices chiming in on this issue have turned it into one of the most polarizing topics in the sport today. We are not just talking about an incident. We are talking about the reputation of a young man whose career is still in its early stages, but now finds itself overshadowed by chaos. In today's breakdown, we are going to walk through exactly what people have said, from Shael Sonnen to Raja himself to his father and others, and analyze what this all means for Raja Jackson's future. Each comment tells a piece of the puzzle, and by the end, we will see exactly how serious this situation is, and why Raja might have landed himself in a place that could be career-threatening. Shael Sonnen's words are crucial because they remind us of the image Raja Jackson has built up over time. Sonnen, a veteran of the fight game and someone who understands both the sport and the media side of controversy, describes Raja not as a hothead or a reckless troublemaker, but as someone who has historically been level-headed, calm, and even polite. That is no small statement. In combat sports, fighters often get painted by their worst moment. One incident, one outburst, or one viral clip can rewrite years of perception. But Shael is pointing to something deeper. His experience with Raja has always been positive. This is important because it tells us that the character we are now seeing in controversy may not align with the character many insiders know. This creates a tension in the narrative. On one hand, Raja's recent action, his word, and the backlash he faces are painting him as someone reckless and unhinged. On the other hand, a respected analyst is telling the public that Raja is actually the opposite of what this moment suggests. This is why public perception is such a tricky thing in combat sports. Fans and critics rarely see the full picture. They see a 30-second clip and decide the fighter is arrogant, careless, or dangerous, but those who know the fighter personally often have a much more nuanced understanding. Sonnen's comment also speaks to the importance of reputation. Raja had built himself into someone that Sonnen, who is not quick to hand out praise, admires. That admiration is based on more than fighting ability. It is based on character. When someone with Sonnen's reputation says he knows you to be polite, that is a valuable endorsement. Yet, the very fact that Shael felt the need to say this shows how bad the controversy has become. It suggests that Raja's actions have shocked people enough that they now need to be reminded of who he really is at his core. Sonnen was essentially saying, "This is not the Raja I know." And when that kind of separation is made, it means the incident has reached a point where reputation is at risk of being permanently altered. So in this first section of the controversy, we see the clash between who Raja has been known as versus who he appeared to be in the moment of this incident. This is the foundation of the entire debate because fans and insiders are now forced to ask, is this controversy a reflection of Raja's true character, or is it a single moment that does not define him? This statement from Shael Sonnen moves the conversation into the physical consequences of the situation. Sonnen describes the way an opponent or sparring partner hit the ground and struck the back of his head with the impression that he may have lost consciousness. This is not a light observation. In boxing, the #1 priority should always be safety. Fighters put their lives on the line every time they step into the ring, and the difference between a well-controlled performance and a reckless action can be the difference between a fighter walking out of the ring or being stretchered away. What Sonnen's statement suggests is that Raja may have been involved in a moment that went far beyond the typical intensity of sparring or performing. Losing consciousness from a head strike is a very serious matter, particularly if it comes in an environment where precautions are not as strict as in a sanctioned fight. The danger here is twofold. First, there is the immediate health concern. Anytime someone loses consciousness from head trauma, there is risk of long-term damage. Second, there is the public perception that Raja may have gone too far or failed to control his actions in a way that kept everyone safe. This observation is what fuels the controversy over whether Raja could face suspension or even legal consequences. If what happened is viewed as intentional or careless, it opens the door to disciplinary action. Sonnen does not say Raja acted with malice. Instead, he is simply pointing out the facts of what happened in the moment, and those facts alone are damaging. The image of someone striking their head, potentially losing consciousness, is the kind of imagery that makes fans, officials, and even sponsors nervous. In analyzing this quote, we also have to remember that Sonnen said he watched the clip repeatedly. This suggests he was trying to determine whether it was staged, accidental, or reckless. The fact that after all that watching, his conclusion was that it looked like the person genuinely lost consciousness makes the controversy even harder to dismiss. It reinforces the seriousness of the incident and makes it harder to spin as a misunderstanding. Ultimately, this moment highlights the thin line fighters walk between performance and danger. Raja Jackson's controversy is not just about words or attitude. It is about a physical incident that could have caused real harm, and that is what escalated the discussion from controversy to potentially career-threatening consequences.
And Stu lands in a way and he hits the back of his head, and he looks as though he perhaps lost a level of consciousness right then.
This statement provides a different angle. Sonnen suggests that from his perspective, Raja was executing the sequence exactly as planned, implying that nothing about his actions was out of control or malicious. This is important because it reframes the controversy as not necessarily Raja acting recklessly, but rather Raja doing what was expected in this situation. If true, it means the backlash may be exaggerated because what happened was simply part of the performance. Even if it did not look good on camera, the concept of working out the spot is taken from professional wrestling and combat sports entertainment. It means executing a predetermined move or sequence in a way that creates a certain effect for the audience. If Raja was indeed doing what was planned, then the problem lies less in his intent and more in the execution or the perception of it. This matters because intent is everything when it comes to discipline. If Raja meant no harm, then the argument could be made that he should not face suspension or legal action. However, Sonnen's statement also raises another question. Even if Raja was following the plan, should the plan itself have been allowed in the first place? If a sequence ends with someone striking their head and appearing to lose consciousness, then it was a poorly conceived plan. Execution matters, but so does responsibility. Fighters and performers need to know when something is too dangerous to attempt, even if it looks entertaining. This is where the controversy deepens. On one side, you have those who argue Raja was simply doing his job. On the other side, you have those who argue that following a bad plan is no excuse when real injury occurs. Sonnen's words show he believes Raja did not act out of anger or recklessness, but whether that absolves him is a different debate. At its core, this section of the controversy highlights the clash between entertainment and safety. Raja Jackson may have been working the spot exactly as expected, but the outcome, someone potentially losing consciousness, was not acceptable. And in boxing or combat sports, outcomes matter just as much as intent. This is where the controversy takes a raw, personal turn. Raja Jackson himself finally speaks, and his words are full of frustration, anger, and exhaustion. He is not polished in this moment. He is not calm. He is lashing out at what he perceives as constant disrespect and mockery. When someone says they are tired of people playing with them and they are going to stand up for themselves, it is a clear sign of built-up tension finally boiling over. Raja's rant gives us insight into his mindset. This was not just about the incident in the ring. This was about a deeper frustration that has been building over time. Raja feels targeted, he feels disrespected, and he feels like he is constantly being treated as a joke. This kind of emotional weight can push a fighter into acting out, into overreacting, or into making decisions that come across as reckless. His words suggest that in his mind, what happened was not just a moment in performance, but a statement of defiance. He wanted to show people that he is not someone to play with. The problem is that when emotions dictate action, the line between standing up for yourself and putting others at risk becomes blurred. Raja may believe he was defending his dignity, but from the outside, it looks like he lost control. That perception is what drives the criticism and the potential consequence. This section of the controversy is powerful because it humanizes Raja. His words show vulnerability hidden under aggression. He feels like he has been constantly pushed to the edge, and this was his way of pushing back. But in the world of boxing, perception is everything. Sponsors, promoters, and fans will not just see a young man defending himself. They will see a fighter cursing, angry, and seemingly out of control. That is damaging. What Raja's statement tells us is that at the heart of this controversy is not just an accident or a performance gone wrong. It is a young fighter struggling with his identity, his respect, and his place in a brutal sport. His words are a window into the emotional storm behind the action, and they make it clear that this controversy is not going to fade quietly.
And either way, Raja Jackson, from my vantage point, is working out the spot the way it was planned.
When Raja's father, Jackson, said, "Let me see, is he going to get banned for it? That's really bad. What he was saying was bad." He captured the weight of the situation perfectly. Jackson wasn't just brushing off his son's rant as a harmless outburst. He was publicly acknowledging that the language Raja used crossed a serious line. This wasn't just about cursing or frustration. This was about disrespect, uncontrolled anger, and words that could bring real consequences. When a father questions whether his son should be banned, you know the behavior has crossed into dangerous territory. Jackson's tone was both disappointed and wary because he understood how the public and the industry view these things. In today's digital world, where every word and every clip can go viral, the wrong statement can lead to suspension, ban, or even total blacklisting. Raja's comments didn't come off as playful banter or staged entertainment. They came across as raw hostility, the kind that make people stop and say, "Wait a second, this isn't okay." Jackson's concern also highlights a deeper issue. If your own parent thinks your actions might warrant a ban, then it's not just haters or outsiders saying you went too far. It's the people closest to you admitting that the behavior was unacceptable. That's what makes this moment so powerful. Jackson recognized that this wasn't just about words. It was about accountability, about the way someone carries themselves under pressure, and about the consequences of failing to draw that line between confidence and recklessness. Raja wanted to defend himself, but in doing so, he might have dug himself into an even deeper hole, one that his own father could already see forming.
Tired of everybody fucking playing with me and shit. Think I'm always playing and shit. Call me bitch and shit. At the end of the day, I'ma stand up for my fucking self. Because I'm tired of everybody fucking playing with me, bro.
When Jackson added, "Might go to jail. He might get banned off too. I hope it was staged. I hope it stays. Because sometimes people do hardcore." The seriousness of the situation escalated even more. Here we see a father who is not just embarrassed or disappointed. He is genuinely afraid of what could happen next. Mentioning jail isn't just exaggeration. In today's era, where words and threats are taken more seriously than ever, saying the wrong thing in the wrong way can be interpreted as harassment, intimidation, or worse. Jackson clearly understood that Raja wasn't just risking his career. He was potentially risking legal trouble. That's why he almost begged for it to have been staged. Because if this was just some performance act, then maybe there's a chance to walk it back, to say it was all for entertainment. But if it wasn't staged, then Raja was playing with fire. The phrase, "sometimes people do hardcore," reveals Jackson's awareness that when young men like Raja try to prove themselves, they sometimes go overboard and end up taking things to extremes that can't be easily forgiven. This wasn't a father defending his son blindly. This was a father looking at reality and admitting that the consequences could be severe. It also shows how the whole controversy had spun so far out of control that even family was left hoping it was all just an act, rather than facing the ugly possibility that Raja had genuinely stepped over a line that could not be uncrossed. The rawness of Jackson's words reveals the fragility of Raja's position. One bad move, one bad video, and everything could crumble.
Let me see it. You broke his face? Hey, is he gonna get banned for it? That's really bad? That's what Shael was saying.
When Sino chimed in and said, "That video did look good, I'm not going to lie. And it looked fake. Maybe it's fake. It didn't look fake. I don't think it was fake." He echoed exactly what the audience was thinking. That uncertainty, that back and forth, is what makes this controversy so explosive. Sino, like many watching, was torn between two possibilities. On one hand, maybe Raja was putting on a show, exaggerating his emotions for attention, clout, or views. On the other hand, maybe he wasn't acting at all, and what people saw was the raw, unfiltered version of who he really is. That tension is dangerous because perception is everything in the digital age. If it looks fake, people will laugh and call it corny. If it looks real, people will start questioning character, behavior, and accountability. The fact that Sino couldn't tell whether it was staged or genuine just proves how messy the situation had become. The video wasn't polished or controlled. It was chaotic, emotional, and unsettling. For Sino to say, "I don't think it was fake," is like a nail in the coffin, because it suggests that no matter how much people might want to dismiss Raja's rant as acting, it looked too authentic to ignore. This is what makes the controversy so heavy. People can forgive entertainment, but when they believe you meant every word you said, forgiveness becomes harder to come by. Sino's statement captures the exact split the public feels, a mix of doubt, suspicion, and ultimately the uncomfortable belief that Raja might have been dead serious. And if he was, then all the warnings from Jackson about bans, consequences, and even jail suddenly don't sound far-fetched. They sound inevitable.
You might get banned off kick too. I hope it was staged. I hope it's staged because sometimes people do hard.
When Raja himself came forward and admitted, "No, I didn't go with my father. How does my head heal? I am still messed up. I'm not even gonna lie. My head was messed up. I was throwing and everything." It sent the controversy into an entirely different dimension. This wasn't secondhand speculation or somebody else interpreting the situation. This was Raja, the young man at the center of all this chaos, directly confessing that he was physically suffering. The fact that he said he was throwing up shows the seriousness of what might have actually happened behind the scenes. Head injuries are no joke, and the way he casually dropped this information almost made it scarier. He didn't dress it up. He didn't try to downplay it. He just laid it all out in raw, unfiltered honesty. For those who doubted whether the video was fake or staged, Raja's words forced them to stop and reconsider. If this was an act, why would he go to such lengths to describe the toll on his health? It makes you think about accountability, not just his own, but also the people around him. Why wasn't there protection? Why wasn't there oversight? His statement shifted the narrative from online gossip into a potentially real and damaging scenario, one that people could no longer just laugh at or scroll past.
No, I didn't go with my pops. How does my head feel? I'm still fucked up. I'm not even gonna lie. But my head was fucked up. I was throwing up and shit.
The situation got even darker when Raja doubled down with another statement. "I am messed up right now, guys. Yeah, so I am gonna take a break from it for a while." This line exposed the truth of how broken he felt inside. It wasn't just about the immediate physical toll. It was about admitting publicly that he needed space, that he had to walk away, at least for a while. That's a cry for help in its own way. You could hear exhaustion in his words, the weight of trying to hold everything together while his body and mind were clearly not in sync. For a young man under constant public scrutiny, this was one of the most vulnerable admissions he could have made. He didn't sound like someone chasing clout. He sounded like someone who realized his limits, someone who was finally forced to acknowledge that he couldn't keep up with the pressure. And that is exactly why people started to rally behind him. For all the controversy and accusations swirling around, this moment humanized Raja. It showed that behind the headlines and speculation was a kid who was hurting, who had taken enough, and who had no choice but to step back. That is something you cannot fake.
I don't just know him to be level-headed and
Throwing up and shit. Yeah, I'm fucked up right now, guys.
Finally, Shael Sonnen weighed in with his trademark bluntness, saying, "And again, I'm giving you my perception, but I watched this thing 20 times before I made this video to you guys." Now this is where things get even more layered. Shael is no rookie when it comes to analyzing fights, controversies, or viral footage. He built his entire post-fighting career on dissecting situations with a sharp eye, and for him to admit that he had to watch the clip 20 times before even making a public statement shows just how complex and messy this incident is. Shael wasn't just rushing out with a hot take. He wanted to be careful, deliberate, and precise, because he knew whatever he said would carry weight. That tells you something. The video wasn't straightforward. There was ambiguity, there was confusion, and even seasoned professionals couldn't immediately land on whether it was staged, exaggerated, or genuinely dangerous. Shael's admission also validated the fans who were torn. If a veteran analyst needed 20 replays to piece together an opinion, then the average viewer's uncertainty was more than justified. What Shael really highlighted here is that this controversy is bigger than just one viral moment. It's about perception, reputation, and the delicate line between entertainment and real-life harm.
and again, I'm giving you my perception, but I watched this thing 20 times before I made this video to you guys.
Shael Sonnen broke down the altercation with a level of detail that only he could bring, pointing out something that many fans may have missed. He stated that while Raja was throwing stiff shots, they were not what we would call true working shots. And importantly, he observed that Raja did not appear to have lost his temper in the exchange. This detail matters because in the world of combat sports, perception is everything. If the strikes had been fueled by anger or rage, the narrative around this situation would have completely shifted. Instead, Sonnen's analysis suggests that these were physical actions without the emotional trigger that typically escalates situations like this into genuine violence. That small distinction between action and temper separates a controlled scuffle from a personal feud spiraling out of control. For Raja, this matters because the public is already questioning his state of mind, given his own words about feeling messed up, drained, and needing a break. By emphasizing that Raja did not lose his temper, Sonnen actually shields him from a narrative that could have easily labeled him as reckless or unstable. It reframes the incident as a young fighter still trying to find his balance in the chaos of the spotlight rather than as someone who has snapped and lost all control. And in this controversy, perception will define the trajectory of Raja's reputation moving forward.
While they were very stiff shots, not what we would call a working shot, it did not appear that Raja had lost his temper.
The Raja Jackson controversy has spiraled into something much bigger than a single scuffle or a few poorly chosen words. It has become a case study in how perception, control, and narrative can shape a young fighter's entire identity in the fight world. From Raja admitting that his head was messed up and that he needed a break, to Shael Sonnen dissecting every angle of the altercation, the storyline has taken on layers that go far beyond the surface. Sonnen's insight that Raja's shots were stiff but not fueled by temper protects him from accusations of losing control, but his warning about confusing action with emotion raises an even greater concern about Raja's readiness for the big stage. Raja finds himself at a crossroads. He can either take this as a wake-up call, regroup, and rebuild his image, or he can allow the controversy to define him before his career even starts. In a sport where legacies are fragile and reputations are everything, the way Raja responds will determine whether this is remembered as a stumble on the way to greatness, or as the moment his story derailed before it truly began.